Hey everyone, Dan Saavedra here from MergeYourData, and today is day 12 of the 90-day YouTube sprint, and we're going to be talking about attribution versus signals. So attribution has been a big topic over the years. It's been beaten down over the past 3 to 4, and then signals have risen up and honestly taken a lot of the discussion away from attribution in terms of the positive light of one of these things. And we're just going to compare the two, talk about some of the downfalls of each, some of the benefits of using each, and then hopefully give you a better idea of when it is the right and wrong time to use each one. So before I get started, I'm Dan Saavedra. I founded this company, signal analytics consulting firm called MergeYourData. We take these signals in all of your data, we move them into the CRM so you can take action on those in an automated or manual way, so you can improve your conversion rates, improve the efficiency of your marketing and sales and revenue teams. Been working in data for 12 years, doing a bunch of things. Who this presentation is relevant for. So we got this nice teamwork picture over here on the left. And this is a good discussion to have amongst your team. So whether you're a leader in RevOps marketing or sales, whether you're part of a team in RevOps marketing or sales, this would be a great topic to bring in for a lunch and learn. It would be a great topic just to bring up within your team meetings to see what everyone's perspective is on it. There are still people in the attribution camp who are convinced that it is the silver bullet for all of your problems. A lot of people might not have heard of signals since it's more of a recent trend, even though it's been around in many forms for a long time. And so this is a good discussion to have to understand where people align or don't align on the team. And so why you would be interested in this discussion as a team would be like, A, you feel like attribution is a fool's errand. Maybe you've dumped a bunch of money into some of these attribution projects, and then the insights aren't what you expected, or they don't lead to the results you expected. So we'll dive a little bit into that. The future is blurry and the past is inaccurate, but clear. So if you don't know how to act on the data that you have, then maybe you're missing a piece here because it's not as clear as you thought it would be. And then if the past has everything filled in, all the data filled in, but it's not accurate, then what are you going to do, right? And so you might find yourself in this situation, especially when it comes to attribution, because there are tons of parts of the customer journey that just aren't captured by attribution. And so you recognize this. And then third is you're trying to make decisions about the future, but you don't know where to look. So obviously everyone wants to be data-driven, or at least I think everyone wants to be data-driven. Everyone at least wants to have more clarity in the decisions they make about the future so that they can feel confident in the path that they're taking. And so that's what we're going to dig into here as well. So any of those three things might mean you're a good fit for this video. So this picture right here is how I would like to visualize attribution, how I like to visualize it. So I just searched for a random image on the internet. I did not create this myself. This is not something that my team created, but attribution is often viewed as a very linear type journey and way of looking at the customer journey. And so this is a very simplified version here where you have these various sources that led to some type of contact or lead in your systems, and then leads to some type of purchase, hopefully inside of one of your channels. And so obviously this isn't the full story of attribution. There's tons of different models you can use to measure attribution, but in general, it's this very linear type of capturing of touch points along the customer journey, where they came from, what messaging was used in that specific journey, and then you basically try to weight those touch points with various models to come up with an accurate view of which efforts are transforming into real opportunity and real revenue. And so that's the goal of attribution. Whether it does it accurately is a whole nother conversation. So attribution, this is how I would summarize it. It's an identification of touch point sources. And so you can have a specific email or ad or whatever it may be that leads to the creation of a contact or the creation of a deal or a conversion or something like that. And so you can use these touch point sources to build a model mathematically to see what that impact is. Next is modeling. So I've already touched on this a little bit. You have various types of models. There's different use cases for each. There's arguable accuracy and lack of accuracy in various attribution models. So that's a big part of attribution in general, is determining the model that you're going to be using. It goes beyond that. You can have lift attribution models, you can have multi-touch, whatever it may be. And it goes beyond those. You have tons of different models that you can use. There's a lot of information around that already on the web. I'm not going to go into it, so you can research that on Google if you haven't heard of that before. I'm sure there's other good YouTube videos out there that describe the differences between each one. Next, attribution is one part of the bigger picture. So it's not the end-all be-all of data that you can collect around the customer journey to determine what's been successful. A small piece of that, and because of the next touch point, that's why we say it's only one part, or because of the next bullet point, that's why we say it's only one part, which is it's hard to get accurate. There's things outside of attribution that happen, or outside of things that can be attributed that happen. A lot of people, like the Chris Walkers, call this dark social. I don't know if he termed that initially, but he talks about it a lot. And so there's things that you can't measure, and it's going to make attribution inaccurate in a lot of ways. It might give you confidence around a certain channel or a certain initiative, thinking that it was something that caused people to convert, but in reality, there were other touch points before that weren't considered that led to this attribution being measured later on. So it can still be useful if you consider it in that full picture, but it does have its limitations. And so when it comes to signals, it's a much different type of view on both the past and the future. And so this picture here better visualizes signals. It's still linear in a sense, while signals might not necessarily be linear, but you can see these peaks and valleys. And so the peaks would be the signals of data points that you're getting that indicate someone has high interest at the moment to either buy or move on to the next step in the customer journey. And so by identifying these signals, you're going to have an idea of whether or not you should interact with someone, what type of message you should send them, and various things like that. And on top of that, you see these negative valleys as well, which are negative signals. And so if they show these negative signals, maybe just move them into an automated downsell sequence or remove them from your list entirely. And so signals are constructing the bigger picture. I have a typo there. Constructing the bigger picture. So it should give you a more comprehensive view of the data points throughout the customer journey. It's not just attributing what channels and messages are leading to success, but it's also understanding statistical probabilities of different behaviors and different cues that you can look at that would lead someone to buying your product or service. And so it's a blend of behavior, intent, and performance. Those three things. It's the aggregate behaviors that you can identify through various tools, first, second, third party, like we talked about in a previous video. Intent based off of, once again, first, second, third party data that you get. If people are searching for certain things or they're browsing certain websites, you can see that they have intent to buy something that you might offer. And then third is performance signals, or not performance signals, but the performance of those signals. And so you're analyzing either with an isolated view or as an aggregate view, a combination of signals, the performance of those data points. So what type of unit economics it leads to when you experience and measure those signals with people. And so it's a lot of qualitative and quantitative data combined. A bigger bucket of different measurement points is what I would call it. So signals are not just attribution, they're not just behavior. There are many things put together. And so it can be scoring, so things like lead scoring, engagement scoring, and sociographic scoring. Behavioral cues, so aggregate behaviors that you observe and witness of prospects and customers that might lead to them either be purchasing an upgrade or reconverting or converting in the first place. Intent, so this could be data captured from other tools like we discussed, indicating that they might be a good fit for your solution. Demographic and firmographic, so your typical ICP type breakdown of the various characteristics of a person, the various characteristics of an organization, and whether or not that's going to be a good fit for your product or service. Maybe you just want to start a relationship, do some account-based marketing, something like that. And then engagement cues. So these would be individual actions inside of behaviors. So you might have these generalized behaviors that you observe of prospects and customers that lead to buying signals, but there are also specific engagements. So page views, clicks, shares of an email, shares of a video internally that are individual signals that should lead to some type of action from marketing or sales in terms of outreach or retargeting or something like that. And then last but not least, because it's a bigger bucket and a bigger, more comprehensive picture, it should be more accurate than attribution. You will never, ever, ever get a full 100% covered view with data of your entire customer journey for everyone. It's just not going to happen. If it does happen, that means we live in the biggest surveillance state of all time, and I would be concerned with other things. But there's always going to be dark funnel, dark social portions of the customer journey that just won't be able to be measured directly. Maybe they'll be measured indirectly in some way. Sometimes you can find downstream data points that indicate something that's happened upstream that you can't measure directly. But that's a very difficult thing to do. Probably not worth, the juice is probably not worth the squeeze for B2B marketing and sales unless you're a gigantic company. Okay, so attribution versus signals. We talked about the two separately. What are they when you're actually comparing them? Attribution is in the past. Signals are predicting the future by using the past and the present. This is how I categorize them. This is how our firm thinks about them. You might not agree with this. This is how we get results for our clients by viewing these two differently. So attribution, like we said, is part of a bigger picture. Signals are the bigger picture with a ton of things in the bucket. And so attribution is one of the in the past data points. And then signals, you're doing more proactive things with those data points. And so they're friends. They're not foes. They go together. You should use them together. The details. Signals are active and guide individual actions. So as signals happen, you should be taking individual sales actions, individual marketing actions to push people further down the funnel, pull people further down the funnel, down the customer journey. Attribution is typically aggregate and guide overall strategies. If you are confident in your attribution data, I would revisit just to make sure, but also it's not going to give you individual actions that you can take in terms of what sales or marketing personnel might do with the customer inside of the journey. Attribution is typically used for more of an overall view of whether or not a campaign and a channel is successful in getting aggregate results for the business. Signals can be that and should be that to a degree, the aggregate analysis. We talked about this in previous videos, but it can also be focused down to the individual level where you have an individual signal data point and then you act on that because of the aggregate analysis. So attribution is typically an aggregate view. It's probably not going to change how your sales team is communicating with or reaching out with leads, prospects, customers. Attribution is a part of signals. And so last slide here, this has gone longer than I expected. How should I use them? One, think about the downsides, understand what downfalls there are to using attribution and trusting attribution to be 100% accurate. The same should be done with everything, signals included. So make sure when you're thinking about signals, think about the other data points that you might be missing when measuring your signals. See if you can measure them. If you can't, just make sure that they're considered when you're doing your modeling, when you're making decisions in the future. 2, think about the blind spots. So similar to what I just talked about, understand the shortcomings of attribution. If there is dark parts of the funnel that are happening, just be aware that you can't see them in your data sets. 3, don't expect perfection. You're not going to get 100% accurate data. It's just the nature of data as a whole. 4, rely on the highest data quality signals. So talking about attribution as a signal, we know attribution might have data quality issues when it comes to tracking things accurately. Talking about the the attribution of the creation of deals, of contacts, of leads. And so what we should do instead is consider this when we're looking at signals and understand which signals are going to be the highest in terms of data quality. If we have confirmed information around behaviors, whether it's recordings or trigger words in conversations or firmographic information or first party verified information, those data quality the data quality of those signals is going to be much, much higher. And so we can rely on those more and be more confident in using those signals to make decisions. Ones that are blurry don't necessarily mean that they should be pushed aside, but we should consider that they might not be as accurate as we need them to be when we're making really big, impactful decisions. So just keep those 4 points in mind. Last but not least, if you can take one action on this video, like, comment, share in a company chat if you found it useful. If you didn't find it useful, comment that I'm an idiot. Share in the company chat and be like, this guy has no idea what he's talking about. We should do the opposite of everything. Whatever it may be, if you could just take one action, I would really appreciate it on the video. Next video, I didn't update this, but we're not going to do a real life case story again. We just did that with the Dine one. So make sure to go back and watch that if you haven't. We'll dive into some more hot topics around signals, and we'll get into more specific problems that can be solved with signals as we just go through our notes in terms of prospects and clients and what we've seen them facing in the last few months. So I'm Dan Saavedra from MergeYourData. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe, or subscribe via the link in the description, which is an email list. Thanks for watching.